And welcome to TSPN on this beginning of our Christmas week. And I don't know about you, but I'm ready for Christmas, Jim. Are you?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm looking forward to it.
And by the way, that's a good intro. We have our county assessor with us, Jim Rooney. I'm Richard Forster, Supervisor for District 2. And we're going to have our supervisor's report for our meeting coming up this week in our second segment. But the first segment, we have Jim Rooney with us, who is not only the county assessor for the County of Amador, but the past president of the State Assessors Association in 2013, is that correct?
2013, yes.
Now, it seems like that was just yesterday. The year goes by fast, doesn't it?
You know, it does go by fast. You have so much to do, and I don't know about you, but I'm usually a little bit more productive when I'm really busy, and that was a busy year.
Right.
I had a lot of things to do. And I want to tell you, before I was the president of the California Assessors Association, the only other Amador assessor to be president was a guy named Clarence Jarvis in 1912.
No relation to Howard.
No.
Howard Jarvis.
It was a 101-year span, and I did a calculation for the next assessor to be president of that association. I think that assessor is going to be born in about 45 years at this rate.
Well, we got into a discussion about this, and I had to inform you that I just became, as you know, president of the State Association of Counties, California State Association of Counties, or CSAC, as we'll refer to it. And I think I'm the first one from Amador County that's ever been the State Association president. Yeah,
it's quite an accomplishment. I mean, out of 58 counties to be, and don't you think it benefits the county?
In a lot of ways. Before we get into benefits, let's tell people, if they haven't seen in other sources, some of the other representatives from Amador County that are in presidency positions of their association.
Pretty interesting.
I guess after you, Martin Ryan started it in June of 2015. He was inducted as the state president of the California State Sheriff's Association.
Yes. And then Mark Bonini recently got sworn in as the president of, what is the chief
California State Chief Probation Officers Association.
Yeah.
And actually, a week before that happened, almost a week to the day, in early December, I was inducted as president of the California State Association of Counties.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And then we have one more coming up.
Well, Todd Reby, in 2017, he's going to be the president of the California State District Attorneys Association.
Right.
Hey, and you know what? Ironically, Pat Blacklock, who was the CAO here, he's going to be the president, or is the president of the California
Administrative Officers of California Association.
Yeah.
And by the way, Pat will be one of the advisors for me and for the CSAC Board of Directors as we go through this year, because the president of their respective association of chief administrative officers serves in that role.
Okay. Now I want to tell you, I've talked to each person that we've discussed, and each one of them says that it's a benefit for Amador County that we have presidents of these associations. And I know with the Assessors Association, it was a definite advantage.
But before we get to that, I want to just note for people that it's usually not a one-year stint. And maybe Tom can, at some point, can put up the picture that was taken at the CSAC event of all of our inductees or future inductees. But for myself, I've already served 2 years as second vice president, first vice president. Now I'll be president. Then I'll serve one more year as past president. I assume the other associations have a similar structure to that?
Well, I know in the Assessors Association, I was the secretary, vice president, president-elect, then president, and then immediate past president. And when I was actually the president-elect, the president of the association was ill. So I actually took over for about a year and a half.
Okay. And so you had a long stint in there. And I think that Martin Ryan, Todd Reby, and Mark Bonini have the same type of structure within their associations where they are sitting at the table, maybe not as the role as president, but you're in the same meetings as the president many times. For instance, in January, CSAC officers will meet with Governor Brown, as we do several times a year. but all of the officers will be in that meeting, and all of us have respective roles in that meeting.
Yeah, when you're the president of the association, it's just not a title with no responsibility or no influence. It's actually quite a bit of responsibility, and I believe in each association, and the influence is pretty substantial. And years ago, when I was first the assessor in Amador County, I'm not sure the LA County assessor or the Orange County assessor realized that Amador was in the state.
I think you're right in many respects.
Yeah, and later on, I got to know them a little bit, went through the chairs, and now they know Amador County is part of the state, and they know that we deserve our recognition at the table.
Well, I've got to know the supervisor who sits as the delegate on the CSAC Board of Directors, Don Kanabe, who I can guarantee you probably wasn't very familiar with Amador County before. He is a great person, very dynamic, but the meetings he sits in are meetings with New York City and with Chicago and Miami.
Yeah.
So the things they do are much different than the things you and I do. But there are a lot of commonalities, too. Before I get to that, I just want to say that Don Kanabe and I have a great relationship now. Our wives got to know each other. We got to know the families. Don Kanabe will host the National Association of Counties conference this summer, this July, in Long Beach.
Wow.
So he's asked for my personal support behind him and standing behind him. So it's just great that you can have those associations. Now the commonalities, what do we have that LA has? Well, we have bark beetle infestation. They have bark beetle infestation. You wouldn't think so, but LA County is a big county. So do we have transportation issues and funding? They have them. Do we have issues with our jail and prison and jail in our other correctional facilities? They do too.
Okay, I'm going to tell you why I think having a county like Amador County is important to the state. Our offices, in the assessor's office, probably the DA's office, the sheriff's office, yours, we don't have big staffs to deal with issues or to take care of things. Instead, we handle them ourselves.
That's right.
In an assessor's office of 11 people, sometimes I answer the phone. I do appraisals, I do budgeting, I really do it all. In the larger counties, they're appointing people to do the duties we do, and I think we have a good insight into how these offices work.
They don't recognize that sometimes, and I'm not talking so much about other counties, but state and federal agencies. When we had the ARA money, the government programs that were coming down, and we got some of that ARA money, they told us, you're not a big enough county to implement this and supervise it yourself. It has to run through the California Energy Commission in Sacramento. We attended 13 meetings in Sacramento. I can guarantee you our staff were competent enough to run that program, where the big counties got that money directly. That's a place where the president of your association needs to intercede and say, wait a minute, just because they're small doesn't mean they're not competent.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've been dealing with these larger counties. We do deal with different issues. As much commonality as we might have, we're supposed to be doing the same job. We have different issues. And a smaller county, I want to say, at your swearing in, at your conference, I was in attendance along with the other people we've been talking about, the other officers, or the other presidents. Amador County, it was noticed. I heard a number of times, I heard someone actually say, hey, Amador County thinks they're trying to take over the state. And it did sound like that a little bit.
Well, and I said in my speech, and I meant it, that Dave Cox, our former legislator and senator in Sacramento, said you have to be there. That was his slogan. And when I mentioned every elected official who's going to be or was or is state president, I said that Amador County is involved and we are part of the game, and we're there. We're at the table. And I think you have to be. For myself, the SB 863 grant that we got of $17,179,000, well, we rated #1 before the Board of State and Community Corrections Committee, would not have happened. And I know from talking to Sheriff Ryan that we were noticed because we had 3 people in those positions as state county, state sheriff, and state Probation Officers Association presidents. And he said the Board of Safety and Community, State and Community Corrections did take note of that.
Well, that's wonderful. And you know how life is. It's important what you know and how you do your job. But when you're there, like you say, at the table, like Dave Cox, you're noticed, and it has been beneficial to the county.
You got to be there.
You got to be there.
But we're quickly running out of time. But speak to the other benefits again. You mentioned legislation.
Well, you know, I found as the president of the association that most of the time I was playing defense. Mm-hmm. There would be some legislation that the large county wanted that would essentially cause more duties for us. And I say, you know, you guys in the large counties, you can assign someone these duties. Right. But in our smaller counties, it's going to hurt us. And I can't think of anything specific right now.
You got to be at the table, though, when it comes to testifying. And they usually want the president of your state association to testify.
Yeah.
I can tell you issues on policy for the governor when he's coming out and creating a budget. What priorities is he going to have? I can tell you that State Sheriff's Association and CSAC are always at the table. And they look to those because of the way law enforcement is viewed at the state level as the priority, and the way counties are viewed as CSAC is the voice of all 58 counties.
Now I'm going to tell you, throughout the state, there's a lot of smaller counties. They appreciated a small county like Amador taking the lead in this. So you've done a good job, and the other officials have done wonderful jobs.
Right.
And it's good for the county.
Every person who takes on that role, though, it's a lot of work.
Oh.
And I appreciate it. Appreciate the you taking the lead as state president of your association to begin with it. And as I told you, you know, life moves on and we go. Thank you for being here, Jim. And we're going to be right back with TSPN.